Welcome, ladies and gentlemen. This is the Political Spotlight. We've got a power-packed show for you all. First and foremost, we're going to start out with a candidate interview with Niles Thornburg, Libertarian candidate running for Mayor of Winchester. Welcome.
Hey, what's up?
What's going on, bro?
Just another groovy day.
Yeah, you know it. So, what's happening with you? What's your shirt say? My people
Skills are just fine. My tolerance to idiots needs work.
I love it. I love it. So, you got a night off from the gun shop tonight?
Oh, I was there earlier today.
I knew you would be. That's hilarious. Good Lord. So, as everyone may or may not know, Niles is producer Kate's husband, and he works at the gun store in Winchester and Newcastle. And where's the new store at?
Greenville.
And Greenville. Okay, so so Trigger Outdoor Sports taking care of all of your trigger and outdoor sports needs now in Winchester, Newcastle, and Greenville. So go by there and see them. Matter of fact, if you hit all three stores, I've heard it said that Niles is at all three stores. It's like the double slit experiment. Niles is at all three stores, and it's just whichever store you walk into, that's the one that he's actually at. So that's kind of an interesting thing. So, but besides that, you're also running for Mayor of Winchester.
Yes, sir.
So what's the best location, Andrew Pop? The best location is Winchester, because you can go there when I know Niles will be there, and that's the best location. Well, what's your opinion? What's the best location? Maybe you have an opinion different than me. You work there.
I'm always going to say the store I'm at most of the time.
Okay, is that the Winchester store?
Yep.
Okay. All right, that's what I thought. I thought that you were in Winchester more than not, but I know they move you around quite a bit. Came out and said I did get to meet him at the Greenville store. See, and at the exact same moment, had you been in Winchester and not Greenville, you would have also been able to meet him there too. I don't. It's a weird. It's spooky actions at a distance. Okay, well, so you're running for Mayor of Winchester.
Yep.
And how's that going for you?
It's going pretty good.
Right. What?
Oh, I just sit back and let my opponent campaign for me.
He's been doing a lot of that this year.
Oh,
so for the people that because it's amazing how many people I still get messaging me and say, Libertarian, doesn't that mean liberal? That's Democrat, right? And I'm like, no, let everybody know what it means that you're a libertarian.
It's libertarians' core values is maximum freedom all the time. They're more in line with the Constitution than any party, and that is the government doesn't have the right to infringe on you as an individual. That the Constitution was written to protect the people from the government and not the other way around. Which somewhere from the beginning to now, we have lost sight of that, and they use our Constitution against us.
Yeah.
Which is not how it was written by a bunch of guys who just fought a war to get away from a ruling class.
Yeah.
Across the pond.
Yeah.
Now the ruling class is on the other side of the other side of the country.
Right. So, okay. So, I mean, just for some of maybe the slow learners out there, it doesn't mean that you hate police. It doesn't mean that you specifically, I mean, you were in the military, so you don't hate the military. It doesn't mean that you hate police, and it doesn't mean that you're not necessarily sovereign citizen material, but you're just like, let me be, I'll let you be. Honestly, I've always said for local elections, it makes most sense.
You have to have law and order.
Yeah.
But the Constitution is there to limit to the extent to which the government can come in. If you're doing something and you're not hurting anybody else, then why does the government care what you're doing?
Right.
They shouldn't. The only time something, where law enforcement stuff comes into play, that's when people are infringing on other people's rights or committing harm to another individual. Things like that. I'm a big proponent of the, downgrading victimless crimes. I mean,
yeah,
it's a way. It just burns a lot of tax money for people that didn't do anything to anybody else.
Right. Yeah. So one of the things that I think that your challenger, Bob McCoy, does a horrible job at, and amazingly, it's something that I feel like a lot of current mayors do horrible jobs at doing. All of these mayors, it's really strange that all of these mayors are kind of older men, and they've all got a problem with ED, economic development issues. And one of those mayors that has a problem with that would be Bob McCoy. I don't know that there's been much development that's went on in in Winchester. Matter of fact, when I moved to Winchester in 2010, I actually decided I was going to get out of politics for a while after the whole craziness with what went on here with the prosecutor's election and all of that. In 2009, I decided that I was going to be done with it for a minute. And one of the things that when I got to Winchester that brought me back out of it was I loved Winchester. As a transplant to Winchester, I was like, man, I love this place. This is home. But I was really disgusted that, I was like, man, this is a really cool small town feel. But there are these things they could do better. But they're not doing anything. I hated, I could go to Kokomo and their town square was completely thriving. You go to Newcastle and Newcastle was pretty beat down, but they were rebuilding their town square. You go to Winchester and it's like the same old tired things that have been there. Nobody goes in there and shops, and it's just run down, beat down. There's no pride in the downtown. There's no new businesses coming in. There's no, thriving with that. And the economic development, nothing's happening, but you always say something. You ran for office before 4 years ago, and you said something then, and I've heard you say it since then, about how you would approach economic development, and tell the people what you think, how your approach to economic development would be different.
Well, economic development, number one, you wouldn't be tearing down houses with that money because you're not developing anything. And it's just if you're going to run for an office, you better be prepared to be a busy individual. I don't care if it's city council, whatever. You are saying, I want to fill this position and to the best of my ability, serve the people of the community in which I represent. That means getting on the internet and looking up grants, and then following the example that every grant site gives you,
right?
Fill it out and submit it, not paying somebody else to do it. That's what I hate. So government, the way is set up, in a republic, you elect someone, that individual represents you, and that is your power. Is you put the people in positions through elections who make decisions, and your recourse is to remove them from office or vote them out. When governments, local and state, federal, when they start putting agencies in charge of doing things, there's no recourse because those are appointed people, not elected.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
and I hate everything. Every time you added something to the equation, it costs money. The
Sure.
government does one thing well, and that's waste money, and that's
Yes.
at all levels.
Yes.
So doing the grants, creating the land bank, using federal dollars, state dollars, and not local dollars to revamp the city. Get rid of, yes, there are some houses that need to be demolished, but you can leave the foundations. It makes it easier to rebuild. And there are some houses that don't need to be torn down, but need to be rehabbed.
Yeah.
That for every house that we tear down in this city, the price of housing goes up.
Absolutely.
All you're doing, supply and demand. If there is fewer homes than are required, you're raising the demand. And that raises the prices. So that the average income around here is like 35 or 40. I think it was 35 last I checked.
That's
If you're living
right.
on $35,000, you're not buying a $200,000 home.
Right.
But not only that, okay. She's like reminding me.
He's getting information
Not
from
only
his
that,
advisor there.
with the decline in housing, the increase in rent.
Right.
So now and it's not just Winchester, it's all over the country. So now you pay more in rent than you would pay if you had bought a home. You can't afford to get a loan from a bank, but you're forced into paying twice as much to rent a property from somebody else. And it's a self-licking ice cream cone, and it's disgusting.
Yes.
So let's stop tearing down houses. Let's get into these programs that have been created to revitalize your city. Have low-cost housing for the people who need it most. This fanciful idea of building $300,000 homes off of a shitty country road right outside of town next to the golf course is not economic development.
Right.
I don't know too many people that would spend $300,000 to live on a crappy road next to a field to be on the golf course.
Right.
Maybe somebody who already lives here.
Yeah.
But yeah, I get on a tangent. I'm sorry.
No. That's fine. No, that's fine because that's exactly right.
The edit money is $200,000 a year they use to tear shit down.
Yes.
$200,000. We can do a lot with $200,000. Economic development is, let's look at roads. When you try to bring in business, not just companies or factories, stores, you try to bring in, grow the city, one of the first things they look at is the roads. And we do a terrible job of maintaining what we have, let alone improving it. What they say is like $500,000 per mile to pave a road. Well, if you pave a mile-long road in Winchester, that's across the whole freaking town.
Right. Right.
So you got $200,000 of edit money we're just throwing away. I'm sure there's some, greasing of the skids there. Then we got another $250,000 in this TIF that has no loan against it, that they pay for investment tips, and I think it's that company that goes through their books and tells them they're doing a good job.
Yeah,
there's
right.
$450,000 we could pave one road end to end from the town, and the budget would stay exactly the way it is right now, minus a couple freeloaders.
Right. Well, and that's speaking to your point about that, about adding, that's something that Winchester does a lot of. They like to add positions to do things, like, for example, I was at a Winchester City Council meeting this year where they were talking about adding this guy, where the council was going to vote to allow this guy to have a say over where their economic development money went. So instead of Joe Blow citizen coming in and saying, hey, I've got a business right now that employs 2 people, and I would like to expand my business, and I would like to employ 3 more people, and I'd like to do this, and I'd like to add an upstairs, could I get $50,000 from you guys? instead of the council and the local government who has the authority to deal with that and say yes or no, they now farm that out to a non-elected, non-appointed, just some Joe Blow. He's probably a nice guy, but he's now the one that's saying like yes or no on this, and then he tells the council. And so if there's some kind of nonsense that goes on here, the public can come back and they can be mad at the council for doing that. But at the end of the day, there's no accountability for that guy and the decisions that he makes, taking that out of the council, having the council, the Winchester City Council is an absolute joke. They do nothing. They don't have a grant writer, which hell, if you're not,
you don't need a grant writer. That's the problem.
I'm just saying that. They don't have that. So then it's like, okay, well, do it yourselves. Well, no one does it themselves. I mean, I don't know that any of them are smart enough to really do 2 + 2. So we probably couldn't have them doing it, but that's why we need more intelligent people in office doing these things, more people that give a damn, that just will go through the process of learning the step-by-step process that it takes to do what needs to be done.
There's a couple of questions I've seen. One guy was asking about staying out of the way of the city council. I got one better for you. They're going to hate me because I'm going to make them do their job.
Right.
I'm not going to run the meetings. That's their job. They hold the purse strings. But when it comes to all these things that they do not do, I'll be right there to force them to do it. I know we're required by state law to have that Board of Public Works.
Yeah.
But we're not required by law to let them take votes and make decisions. Now, they can take votes as a recommendation, but that needs to go before the city council for a final decision-making process. I would also like to look at changing. Well, I'm getting off of economic development now.
You're fine. No. Go however you want. That's fine.
And then a lady was asking about the blight and in the land bank and those grants that go along with that kind of thing, it does have in there for rehabilitation of properties and providing low income housing. And when that occurs, the city is very bad about contracts. They just give things away with no expectation or no way to enforce anything. So when you do these homes like this, it's got to come with a contract. Like, you must live there for 10 years. That's just to prevent, somebody from coming in, having their buddy buy the house for them. They're a realtor. And then it turns right around. He sells it for $200,000. He got it for $15,000. That's putting things in place to prevent it from being misused. You're trying to make it go where it needs to go. Kind of like farm aid.
Yeah.
The little man never sees very little of that money.
Right.
But the corporate farms, they get a butt ton.
Oh, hell yeah. Absolutely.
That's what we don't want.
Well, yeah, absolutely. We've got a really important question here, and I was going to get to it, but since they brought it up, we'll go ahead and ask it now. Any thoughts on what you would do with changing the council attorney, the city attorney, the mayor's attorney? Any thoughts? You don't plan on keeping Meeks, do you?
No. Would definitely be looking for an attorney that specializes in state and local law.
Yeah.
As to prevent any lawsuits. That's the other thing. These guys, they put people in that are yes men, are going along with all the craziness they're doing, and they get sued, and rightly so. It's like the police chief. That dude should be all but slapping the mayor sometimes to prevent him from getting himself into trouble.
Yeah.
That's what he is, the chief law enforcement for the town. And, he needs to have the, what's the word? He needs to be comfortable with cutting the mayor off and preventing him from making an ass of himself.
Right. Yes. Yes.
He needs to be out of the position. That's I don't want people around me that agree with everything I say. I really like having ideas and butting heads. I've always butted heads with people, even that I worked with in the military. and we got a lot of things resolved that way. We might have started out, yelling at each other, but in the end, it all came out better because, it's two minds are better than one. And you got to be open to ideas, and that's the problem with this community is there's no openness to new ideas. That's the way it's always been. Well, our town hasn't always been like this.
Yeah, right.
This is a great place to live. I came back here to raise, my youngest children, and I know I've said it before. When we drove into town, my wife's not from Winchester; she's from around Cleveland, and but we were here a few years before I went active duty, and we drove into town. We hadn't been here for years because we'd been in Europe for quite a while, and she's like, "This is sad."
She was like, "Holy shit! This is where you're bringing us."
It was disheartening because there were so many houses that were gorgeous when we were younger, and just starting a family to today.
Holy shit's probably too mild. There were probably
right.
Well, it's just when you come in, you go to these meetings and they look at you like you're an idiot.
Yep.
And they'll insult you, and they have, and it's not just local politics, it's state and federal too. They have people convinced that they're not smart enough to run for an office.
Yeah.
It was designed for exactly that. The average Joe Blow says, you know what? I think I could do some good. I'm going to run for office. They do a term or two, and then they go away and go back to what they were doing before. That's how this is supposed to run. Yeah. Not having lifetime politicians that have no idea about the real world. We don't need highly intelligent people. We definitely don't need lawyers running for office.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah.
The founding fathers didn't want lawyers in politics.
Right.
Well, we need people with common sense. What was it? Ralph Nader said, if you want to see Washington run right, fill it with blue collar workers.
Yeah, right.
So, that's it irks me. You give me a room full of people with common sense, and this city in a year, you wouldn't recognize it.
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
But in the process, you're going to piss off, we call them the beautiful people.
Yeah, the beautiful people.
Because they're not getting their revenue, from the city government anymore. Right. It's going to what things that it needs to go to.
Yeah, the things that's actually needed.
The city has certain things that it's supposed to do, that it is responsible for. That is safety of the citizens, infrastructure, everything else is just enforcement of code, but everything else is part of safety, but everything else is just add-on and is not necessary.
Yeah.
So if you're not performing your basic functions as an elected official, then you have failed. And that's why if this town was going just fine, I wouldn't even try, because I know that if I'm elected, the next 4 years are going to be hell, and what little hair I have growing on my head probably won't grow there anymore, because it's going to be a pain in the ass,
right?
And if you do your job properly, you're always at work. You're stressed out because you see what's coming, and you're trying to mitigate it or make all these things happen, and it stresses you out.
That's what kills me. Ladies and gentlemen, we're talking with Niles Thornburg. He is the Libertarian candidate running for mayor in Winchester. This is, for those of you who are just tuning in, this is the Political Spotlight. I'm your host, Christopher Bilbrey. We're talking to Niles. After Niles, we're going to be talking about some breaking news. We're going to be talking in Winchester. We're going to be talking about some things going on in Newcastle concerning the mayor down there, the mayor candidate on the Republican ticket down there, and his words on the radio today. We're going to be talking about some breaking news out of Muncie, and so we've got some places all over East Central Indiana to get to this evening. But right now we're talking with the Winchester Libertarian candidate running for mayor, Niles Thornburg. That's one of the things that bothers me, Niles, is that I know that Winchester is a little bit different than, say, Muncie. Obviously, there's a lot difference in size of city, in class distinction. Winchester's a third-class city. Muncie's a second-class city, so things are a little bit different. But one of the things that gets me is at least a good portion of the 9 city council members in Muncie. City council is a quote-unquote part-time job, but at least a good portion of the Muncie city council members are doing something or doing several somethings with the city of Muncie daily, if not every day, every other day, several times a week. They're interacting, doing stuff all 24 hours a day, on taking phone calls, emails, doing things, and working on things. It seems like Winchester, the council members, since I've been there, since when I moved there, and then I moved away in 2019, moved back to Muncie, but it seems like their service starts 15 minutes before the council meeting, and then when it's over, their service ends. And then for the whole another month, they're just John Q. nobody, and they don't call them, don't text them, don't see them, don't ask them anything. They don't know, they don't care, they don't want to know. And then they go pick up their council packet 10 minutes before the council meeting, and they're hearing it for the first time when everybody else is hearing it. And that's not how that's supposed to work.
No. So there's going along with that crap. You know,
yes,
so the freaking the crap that you're going to vote on before the meeting or during that meeting, that shit is published a week prior to everybody. Hell, you just create a City of Winchester Facebook page where you can ask your councilman and they will respond to you on that page. And then on that page, we can post everything so everybody can see it. So, there's a 40-page document on the city site where you can go in and read everything, not by name only, but you can read everything about what they're getting ready to pass. And then, because I hate it when you go in there and the city council, they're handing in the packets right before the meeting and they're about to vote on this crap. No, they need to know word for word everything they're voting on and know exactly what's going to happen instead of just giving a rubber stamp because, we're still in high school and this is a popular thing to do and fuck everybody else.
Yeah. Well, that's the thing. That's the problem. It seems like for so many people, basically Winchester, the thing that I always heard, well, first of all, I say the problem with Winchester is they had one mayor from 2 years before I was born until I was 30 years old. They had a mayor for 30 years in Winchester. And the problem that happens, and he might have been a good guy at one point, but the problem when something like that happens is no one starts to care anymore. After 4 years, after 6 years, after 8 years, after 12 years, they're like, oh, he's got it. Everything's going to be okay. We don't need it. He's got it. Jack's got it. And so that's the thing. And he's the gentleman that said that he wanted to turn Winchester, which was a thriving community, into a retirement community. And that's never the goal. I mean, I can see somebody saying that like in 1970 who was 60 years old in 1970, but that is not the way that you want to look at a community, because when you're saying, when you're a 67-year-old mayor in 1980 saying, I want to turn this into a retirement community, that means a graveyard community in the 90s and the 2000s.
Yep.
And
I can get onto that in a second. Going to, because I'm seeing a lot of questions about police and the council. So I think in Winchester, you might be going to get away with 2 officers on duty, the midnight shift. But I think if there's daylight, there should be at least 3 officers on duty and a standby. How do you get officers to come to Winchester? You give them the money they deserve. And then Like right now, the way they have it set up, the mayor comes in, he can hire and fire all department heads. I got a few things I'm rolling around in my head, but that needs to be fixed because the good old boy system needs to die away. I've looked at even, maybe so the mayor, if there is a state law that says the mayor has that right and you can't take that away, getting the council involved to come up with ideas, possibly taking the police officers in a separate room and letting them do a vote, the old piece of paper, fold it up, throw it in the hat kind of thing. And because as a recommendation, who better to know who they want to work for or don't want to work for than the people who are directly impacted by that individual.
Right.
You create a good work environment for people and, they'll flock to you. If you create a hostile work environment, then they're going to flee. I mean, they're going to run for the hills. Nobody wants to come to work and hate it.
Sure.
Nobody wants to hate the person that's in charge of them.
And for the record, for the people out there that hear that think, oh my God, that's crazy. Like that would never, something like that would never work in Muncie. The difference between Muncie and Winchester is 100 guys. I mean, Muncie has 110 guys. Winchester has 10 guys. So you've got, that's the difference between there. And it's very much more interwoven, interconnected type of thing. Absolutely. Let me see here.
How do you pay them, Niles?
How do we pay them? So the first thing I'm doing if I'm elected mayor.
Oh yeah.
The first day I walk into office, I walk in with the independent third party to audit the city. Every piece of paper, every file is gone through with a fine-tooth comb. And whatever money has been wrongly spent or allocated, then we will reacquire that money back.
This is one of the biggest reasons you have pushback. This is one of the biggest reasons you don't win, because people are scared. People are scared of that. Yes, Winchester doesn't want that. Randolph County doesn't want that. I would say,
See, that's the problem. See, and I've been told, where corruption's everywhere. And my response always is, I don't live everywhere. I live here. Yes. And if there's going to be a change, people need to start standing up.
Yes.
And taking accountability and making people do the right thing. It really, I can't even emphasize how bad it pisses me off when I see this shit going on. I got a lot of friends that no longer are above this earth defending this country. And I come back to a bunch of crooked pussies who never wore a uniform, who are taking money away from citizens who can't afford it.
Right.
I mean, hell, they've got a lucrative business with, reclaiming people's properties for back property taxes,
yes,
which is unconstitutional. And if anybody would like to read the notes between the founding fathers, they thought we were going to be a lot smarter than we are. That whole pursuit of happiness, they felt was all encompassing to include property, because you can't be very happy if you don't own shit.
Right.
And then making money off of it.
Yeah.
They say you has to go through the course and everything, but it never says that the city actually has to take ownership of that property and pull those people out. So yeah, there's that. But so paying for it, the audit, I'm telling you, there's going to be a buttload of money coming back to the city or not going out anymore. The TIFs are gone. I don't care if that pisses the people off at the golf course. The TIFs are gone. California outlawed golf course, or TIFs, not golf course. They outlawed TIFs. The most corrupt state in the United States of America outlawed TIFs because it's too easily to corrupt.
Yeah.
And here we are in a super majority Republican state, and we are running freaking TIFs left and right.
Yes.
There is no oversight for that shit.
Yeah.
So, I mean, one TIF, no loan against it, is $250,000.
Yeah.
You can do a lot with $250,000. You can do a lot with salaries. Another thing I'd really like to do, I believe in keeping things local. Everybody gets first dibs if they're local. Because if you're paying people's tax money back into people who work in the county, to the companies that, where they reside, it's just this big circle. The tax money goes out to the company, pays the employees that live in the city or the county, and then they get taxed on that money again. That's how it should work. No, you're not always going to get the best.
I don't want to interrupt you here real quick. I just don't want him to leave. I don't mean to interrupt you here, but Coach Peckinpah's asking, am I allowed to ask, is Thornburg related to Miles Thornburg, who wrestled for Muncie? Does that name sound familiar to you?
There's a lot of Thornburgs.
Most of your people's from Randolph County, right?
Yep. If they're farmers and they spell it B-U-R-G, we're probably related.
Yeah, it's okay. That's what I thought. All right, sorry about that.
No, you're good.
Keep going.
Where was I going? What was I doing?
Sorry. You're on the TIF. The
oh yeah,
about cutting money.
Yeah, so the TIFs, that brings back in a lot of money to the general fund. And don't forget, we also put back about $1.3 million a year in the rainy day fund, which is awesome. The city should be able to sustain itself for, I would say, 5 years with nothing coming in. And I think we're about there now. So, if we're putting back $1.3 million a year, and now we're at 5 years, why don't we just put back that $300,000 and keep that $1 million in the general fund and do things that we're supposed to do? Not doing projects that are every year costly. So if you create, it's just like creating parks in Muncie. You're creating more expense because there's maintenance fees that come with that. So like I pave roads, you could pave 2 miles of, you could pave 2 roads end to end in Winchester every year and never use, and you're using money that nobody ever knows we have because we've never had it. It's always been stashed away.
Absolutely. Not to mention the fact that if Winchester doesn't start putting in for, Winchester is completely asinine because they don't put in for the community crossings grant.
Mm-hmm.
We used to get it. Winchester used to get it the whole time. That's one thing Sean was good for. Sean wasn't good for much, but he was good for the community crossings grant. That we've never had a problem with that. And then all of a sudden Bob gets in and you don't get it for several years in a row. And it's ridiculous. Muncie's done the same thing. It's absolutely crazy. You've got to take advantage of those things when the state is willing to give you matching money like that. I mean, that's absolutely nuts.
Well, you look at that. So you get the matching money, and we put $1 million. We put $1.5 million up. The money we saved from the TIFs that are being wasted, and $1 million out of the 1.3 we put away every year.
Right.
So that's $1.5 million.
Double it.
The state gives us $1.5 million. We have $3 million. That's 6 roads into. Hell, you could pave half of Winchester.
Right. I mean, Winchester's not that big. Real quick, we've got some people here. So TIF is basically, okay, if you imagine, this is the easiest way to think about it. If you've got like a square block in town and it's just got like a couple homes on it, you got one home on each of the 4 roads. And so that you have only so much property tax that's going to come off of that. Well, if a new business is going to build in that area, say it gets rezoned for commercial and they build a brand new business that increases the property tax, and you get this, normally that money would just come back in property to that area and it would just go into the general fund. If you create a TIF district where that area is, now that property tax money, it's going to be, it's lessened, but it goes into the TIF, and now you can spend it differently and spend it on different things.
And it's not all of the property tax.
Yeah,
it's just the increase.
It's what was increased.
So if that business coming in, the property tax increase was $50,000 a year, that money would go to the TIF.
Yeah.
And what it's supposed to do is pay off the loan for the money they borrowed to bring the business in.
Yeah. Yeah.
Well, like the problem is the loans end or never existed, but the TIF still does.
Right.
So I mean,
well, yeah.
How the county hasn't gotten in trouble for this is but I was save it for another day. I'm not worried about the county. I'm worried about the city right now. So that's why I hate them. It's because once it's in the TIF, there's no oversight.
Yeah,
That
that's
money can go.
right.
I really want to move the bank. I think what they use now, the headquarters is down in like Evansville or Terre Haute or something. I mean, we got Farmer State Bank right here. The headquarters is in Greenville,
Right.
Close by. I'd like to move it there and support, keep the banking local. It's also easier to see what you're doing. I'd also like to know, that would be a good way to find out how many accounts there are in the city's name and if there are any ones that are not legit.
I tell you, that's absolutely. Yeah, I tell you, nothing is scarier, and it would be so easy to do that thing. I'm telling you, if the people out there, if you have not watched, it used to be on Netflix. I don't know what it's on now. It's called All the Queen's Horses. You guys have watched it. If
Yes.
you people out there in the YouTube world, Google All the Queen's Horses. It's the single largest fraud that has been perpetrated on the face of the earth when you consider like to size per capita, per income and everything that was going on. It's this little old lady that was like a clerk treasurer in some nowhereville in Illinois or Iowa. And
Illinois.
It was like a town of like 8,000 citizens, and she was still stealing millions and millions and millions over the course of 30 years. And so, yeah, you do something like that and you find out like, whoa, what's all this nonsense? That's very, very interesting.
Yes,
yeah.
That everything you hear in a small town, they heard it in that town. Oh, they would never do that. They come from a good family. They're good people. They go to church. You never know. But when you live in a community where everyone just assumes that you're on the up and up because your dad was a deacon in the church or was a really good mayor or a really good businessman or just a really good father.
Yeah.
Those are the ones that'll sneak up and bite you in the ass.
Yeah. Yeah.
Because no one expects it.
Yeah.
And I just want to clean things up. I'm a 4 and done.
Yeah. Yeah.
Because I don't know if I could do more than 4 because I'm going to be stressed out for 4 freaking years.
Right.
But when I'm done, there will be no fraud, waste, and abuse. The council will vote on paying their bills before they're due.
Yes.
And they will scrutinize them. And to answer one lady in here, nothing will be read by name only.
Yes.
It will be read out loud, word for word.
By title.
And there will be, people will have an opportunity to speak on it and give their opinions prior to the vote. This waiting till the end for people to voice their opinions is what's the point? They've already made the decision.
Yeah, right. Well, right. That's literally the reason I tried to get Sean to push moving the public concerns to the beginning of the meeting. And I had pushback because people said, well, then what if you got to wait for a whole nother meeting to talk about something that happened? And I was like, well, then do public concerns at both the beginning and the end. But like I said, they just need to do it the way Muncie does it. Allow the ordinance to be read and then allow people to come up and ask questions on that ordinance and then move to the next and then that ordinance and then move to the next and then do public concerns at the end of that. That would be the easiest way. Before we get ready to roll out of here, I can't believe it's been an hour already. I want to ask you another question here. Let's give you like the final word. But I wanted you to be on here when we broke this initial news first about Lisa, because you guys have been a part of this as well. And I know that Josh is watching, and I know that there's a lot of people that are really caught up about this, and this is big. If you've watched any at all of us talking about Winchester City Council and Winchester corruption as a whole, if you've been a follower of Civic Duty or you've watched me since I was walking around in my underwear at 318 South Meridian Street when I was in Winchester when I first started doing this, you know that one of the people that I've battled has been Lisa Friend Teal. She was a city councilor for District 4. She's not dead or anything, so I'm not going there. Thank God she's still alive, I guess. But so what the big issue here lately has been is she moved to Boot Stank, Montana, or something like that, back in March, and she literally has. She's blown off the citizens. Taxation without representation. I mean, you want to talk about it. I put that even in the paperwork. Taxation without representation. You want to talk about being taxed and not having representation. Talk about Lisa Friend. Listen, since the beginning of this year, the city council has met 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14. It's met 14 times since the beginning of this year. And since in that 14 times, District 4 City Councilor Lisa Friend has been to exactly 1, 2, 3, 4 of those meetings. Those first 3 meetings she attended was January 3rd, January 16th, and March 6th. And since March 6th, she has not attended. She did not attend a meeting on March 20th, April 3rd, April 17th, May 15th, June 19th, July 17th, August 21st, September 18th, October 2nd, and then voila, she just appeared out of nowhere here on the 16th of October because it's election time. She is on the ballot for this November, but she moved. She moved to Cut Bank, Montana, and on March 29th, the Cut Bank Pioneer Press ran a newspaper article that said, moving from one town to another, Lisa Friend, and she ran this great big article about this girl moving out west. And she literally has been stealing the taxpayer money, not representing the taxpayers, not voting on issues, not answering phone calls, not answering emails, not talking to her fellow council members. And so I'm gonna let you guys say it. I don't know if Kate wants to get into the picture. You guys want to say, if you guys want to break the news, what happened?
We got a little help from a little friend of ours.
Oh.
And we went up to the county courthouse today.
Oh.
And we filed a lawsuit.
No way.
Naming Lisa Friend, Mindy Peed,
and Ben Wells.
No way.
For allowing a candidate to be on the ballot who does not meet the resident qualifications of a candidate. And we sued for injunctive relief to have Lisa removed from the ballot.
So it's not like you're suing her to make,
I'm suing her for $1 million.
Millions of dollars and millions
No,
of
I
money.
just want her to not be on the piece of paper.
Yeah, right. It's just like leave the people alone. Go have your wonderful life
and let us have a representative that we elect.
And the thing that really gets
go ahead.
That whole thing, it really pisses me off. And you talk about subversion of the Constitution.
Yeah.
You see, this is, and then because the council knows about it, they've been talking about it. So you know that the Randolph County chair knows about it. Yep. They've got the same thing going on in Union City right now with the guy who doesn't live in the district running for city council. He doesn't live in the correct district. Now I'll keep it under the rug until they're elected.
It is
and
so
that's what
gross.
they're trying to do with Lisa Friend. We'll just let it ride until after the election. She gets elected, then we can have her resign, and we'll appoint a good Republican, because they're supposed to be Christian conservatives. They're supposed to be constitutionalist, and I mean that's right there is just some dirty ass liberal bullshit.
Yeah.
And that's what people talk about parties. I run as a libertarian because the Libertarian Party aligns closest with me in my beliefs, but it's a party. I'm an American. I'm not a libertarian or a Republican or Democrat. Yeah. I'm an American. And if the party ever goes in a direction that I don't like, then I'll walk away.
Yeah, right. Sure.
Because I'm an American.
Yeah, right.
This whole allegiance, this is the new religion. It's not, are you Catholic or Protestant? It's, are you Democrat or Republican? And they'll vote. I mean, there is no person in this country who could look at our current president and say, you know what, that guy's got his shit together.
Yeah, right.
He doesn't even know where he's at. I think the Australian news media had the best saying when they said they called it senior citizen abuse.
Yes.
Um,
Yeah, it's
but-
not good.
Loyalty to the death to a party. If we had that kind of loyalty to our Constitution and our country, we would not be in the mess we're in right now.
That's absolutely.
But they're going to pull a straight party ticket because we're still one of the few states left in the country where you can vote for one party and one party only.
Right.
By pushing a single button. Tell me that's not subversion.
Yeah. Yeah.
Well, the thing that makes me really sick, it's J.D. Prescott was doing that thing trying to get the school districts being partisan because he said he could tell by looking at the R or the D next to someone's name, their moral character and how fiscally responsible they were.
Yeah.
Well, if he's implying that the Republicans are the party of moral character, why the hell are they not doing the right thing and taking her off the ballot when she doesn't?
Well, I'm going to tell you, and it was what got us talking about doing this, because we've all, Josh, and there's a lot of people been involved with this, Josh and Joan and Lydia and Bridget and you guys and Coy and just a lot of people have been involved in talking. Republicans, Democrats, Libertarians, people who just don't give a shit. We've all been talking. People who live in Winchester, people who don't live in Winchester have been talking about how gross this is, what Lisa is doing. And we talked about, well, should we let her go and then fight it? Should we file a suit before? Should we file a suit after? We talked about the different things, but then I heard from a source last week that the Republicans are literally sitting around holding their breath, hoping that nobody made a stink one way or another because they did not want a legal fight. Well,
too late.
They got a legal fight. There you go.
Wish granted.
Wish granted. It has already been set for hearing on November 2nd. The law says that it has to be heard within 10 days, which 10 days would have made November 6th. There has to be a ruling, but it's been set for a hearing on November 2nd. If she gets removed from the ballot on November 2nd, they have to, in order to hold a caucus, they would have to hold 48 hours notice. So if she would happen to get, if the court would rule in our favor, which I don't know how in the hell they wouldn't, on November 2nd, they could then call one. Man, they would have to caucus. I don't think they can caucus. I don't know how they're going to do this. I don't honestly. This is going to be a very bizarre. I can't wait to see how this unfolds, politically speaking.
I can tell you the smart thing would do is just leave it alone and have no candidate.
Yeah, I'd be fine.
Because you're already nailed. You've got the city clerk, the Republican county chair, and a district councilwoman who are all being charged with fraud.
Well, in civil court.
In civil court, yeah.
Well, sure.
So you've already tried to subvert the system by doing shady shit, and then at the end you got caught. You're like, oh, wait a minute, we can hurry up and get somebody else on there so we can try and maintain the seat. I think you just need to leave that one alone.
Yeah. Louis, I think Louis also was. I think he was there the day that. I think he watched. Guns N' Roses pin "Welcome to the Jungle," and I don't know. I'll believe it when I see it. Where is Louis? What's he doing? I don't know. It'll be interesting to see if that happens. We'll know. Well, I mean, that'll be interesting. It'll be interesting to see if that happens. If Arnett recuses himself, I don't know.
I don't know why he would.
Yeah,
just out of favor to Ben Wells, I guess. But I wouldn't think that he would have. I don't know. It'll be interesting to see what he does with that.
I just want to see what happens with the case and how far it goes beyond.
Oh yeah. If no one runs on the Republican seat, then either Lydia Carpenter, one of our candidates, or Joan Ashley, one of our candidates, wins. There's 3 people running for that seat. The Republican, which we do not like, and who has been stealing from the citizens of Winchester, more or less, taxation without representation. The Republican incumbent is Lisa Friend. She's the one that's in the doghouse. And then there's a Democrat running, Joan Ashley, which is a killer person. She's, she's amazing. And then Lydia Carpenter, who is an amazing person as well. She's running as a Libertarian. So there's a Libertarian running, there's a Democrat running, and there's a Republican running. So if they pull the Republican out, then it is what it is.
Yeah, and it amazed me, and I'm ready for this because people are going to be upset, not that they broke the law, but that they got called out on it.
Absolutely,
it boggles my mind, people's thought process or lack thereof. They're not worried about what people did wrong. It's just that somebody had the audacity to call them out on it. So that that'll be floating around. But
yes, City of Communists, we're getting ready to switch on. But
there's one more thing I want to say, Chris, because
yeah,
I've been thinking about it a lot lately. You go into the meetings, and this is another thing. I could write a book on what pisses me off about politics. You go to these meetings, and they definitely take care of their own.
Oh, absolutely.
And when you go before an elected board with an issue or a request, it should be unbiased. It has to be unbiased.
Yeah.
Otherwise, you are not doing your job. There's a couple examples with some business people in town where they were promised something and then taken away because they said they were difficult. They could be the biggest asshole in the world, but they came to you with a concern and a need. And as an elected official who represents the city, you have an obligation to give everyone the same treatment and, in an outcome that is based on the merits of their request and not of their, likability.
Oh, yeah. There you go. Dark Dan likes your beard. The election is won.
That's what I'm saying.
Well, that is absolutely. There's like literally nothing else that can be said at that point. That is absolutely the best way to. Yeah, I don't even know. Dark Dan likes it. That is it.
Hell yeah.
That's amazing.
You get an endorsement, Dark Dan?
Yeah, does Dark Dan from Muncie endorse the bearded wonder from Winchester? Niles, so you guys are just going to be putting out the rest of your signs and letting Bob continue to campaign against himself for you?
Pretty much. And spreading freedom, one freedom stick at a time. We also sell freedom seeds. That's my Facebook get around.
Yes, I love it. Well, very good. As always, you're always welcome here anytime you want to come on. We'll definitely be following the election. I'll be over and around and in and out all day that day, all over everywhere. So I definitely wish all of you luck. We're going to be talking to the other Libertarian candidates and a lot of other candidates this week still. So absolutely great. You can come on anytime else you want throughout the rest of the election, anytime you want. So it's, you're here anytime. So very good. I appreciate it.
All right, man. Hey, thanks for having me on. If anybody needs a sign, they can message me and I'll accommodate you. And I would appreciate your vote come election day. I said, I'm going to ruffle some feathers. It's going to be painful for people who've been in charge and are still in charge, but it's the right thing to do. And I'm not there. I'm not running to make friends. I'm there to do the job. And if I piss some people off along the way, well, then, I piss some people off. But at the end of the 4 years, I'm going to go back to doing what I love to do, and that's firearms. And the city will be in a better place. And it's up, what did Ben Franklin say when he was asked, what kind of government do we have? And he said, a republic, ma'am, if you can keep it.
If you can keep it.
I'll do everything I can to get the city as straight as it can possibly be. And then it's up to the city to ensure that they elect people that keep it that way.
It's up to whoever comes next to be able to keep it that way. Mm-hmm. Well, I appreciate it as always, and we will see what goes on.
All righty, sir. You have a good one.
Thank you. You too, buddy.
All right.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, that was Mr. Niles Thornburg, the bearded wonder. I love Niles and Kate. They're very, very good friends of mine. I love to get Niles on. He gets Niles is like a man of few words, but like when you get to cranking and you get it going, he really gets going, and then he can just talk, and I love it. I think it's amazing. Definitely like to sit around and talk to him, just one-on-one and just listen to just shoot the shit. It's amazing. So I think that's fantastic. If anybody knows anybody in Winchester, you can vote Republican again if you want. You can go in and press the tired Republican straight party ticket and continue seeing what it gets you. Or you can say, you know what? To hell with it. This one time, I'm going to go in and I'm going to vote for a Democrat in this race. I'm going to vote for a Republican here. I'm going to vote for a Libertarian here and another Libertarian here. That's what you ought to go do and see if you can't make a difference, because Winchester is definitely in a bad way with needing a difference. So that was Mr. Thornburg from Kelt. Oh yes, and timing issues, says Kate. Tell him I said thanks for his service. Obviously, that's very, very, very big. We didn't talk about that a whole lot. We've talked about that a lot with Niles in the past. Niles is a lifetime military veteran. He wasn't like, and not that there's anything wrong with people who go in and do a year or do 3 years or do 4 years or 6 years. Service to your country is service to your country. But Niles was like a lifer. He was there for 20 some years. And so, yeah, that's definitely.
And he wasn't a pogey boy. He was infantry, boots on the ground with a gun, leading the charge.
Right. Absolutely.
And the thing I'm most proud of, he brought all his boys home.
Yep. People came back.
Combat, he brought all his boys home.
Yeah.
Makes me more proud than anything else I can think of.
Yeah. I met Niles putting in a garage door. Glad to have him because it was shit show before he got there. Clinton is not a bot, ladies and gentlemen. Clinton is a real human. I have seen from a very, very own eyes. He is an actual human being. All right, ladies and gentlemen, that is it. We've got a lot of busy work to get through in the next several days. Please do me a favor. Share the show with everyone you know. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you all very, very, very much. I want to say a big thank you to Niles for coming on the show tonight. Niles is awesome. Please, for the people in Winchester, vote for Niles. And always, as always, a very, very, very big thank you to producer Kate for making this shit run. Ladies and gentlemen, take care. God bless. Have a good night.